Welcome to another episode of Expected Buffalo, the podcast. And it is another Mailbag Thursday. We're not doing this one live because it's nearly 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. And I don't know, I figured I'd take a break from the live one this time. A little bit late, so why throw that out there when, maybe most normal people are sleeping, getting ready for tomorrow. Yet here we are, ready to talk about the Buffalo Sabres once again. But first, we, of course, need to get to our sponsors, which is One Pie Pizza, 2185 Clinton Street in West Seneca. Open daily from 9 to 8, and you can order right online, onepiepizza.com. Check them out, and thank you, of course. So as I was saying, we have 3 questions, so we're not going to go a long time tonight, but 3 questions in the mailbag on Mailbag Thursday to dive through and discuss. So if you're watching on the video, you'll see the questions. If you're listening on the podcast form, I will read them out to you so that you know what they are. That is the usual format we go through. So we have a question about the 13-game losing streak. We have a question about free agency. And we have a question, of course, because it's one of the hot topics lately, about goaltending. But let's start things off with the 13-game losing streak, because really, that is why the Buffalo Sabres are going to miss the playoffs. Ultimately, for the 14th year in a row. And this is a pretty good question, the way it's put together from Tyler. So Tyler asks, who do you hold responsible for the 13-game drought that will become the biggest contributing factor to the Sabres likely missing the playoffs for a 14th straight season? For me, I'm going to give you a weird answer first. It's not much of blame, but I think the reason why it happened is Rasmus Dahlin missed a lot of those games. Maybe it's a cop-out, but honestly, that's the truth. I think, I don't have the number on top of my head. I should have looked it up, but I think of those 13 games, he missed 7 or 8 of them. And we've seen, even recently, what kind of team they are when that guy is not in the line. Does that mean you should lose every single one of those games? No, you should be able to sneak out 1 or 2, but I still think it is the most significant contributing factor to that. So I think where I would start things is definitely at Dahlin missing those games. Beyond that, I think in the email Tyler put together is the general manager, the coach, the players, owner. I think it's really everything. And it's not so much that one thing is more responsible than the other. I think you just had a lot of bad things come together and play a part in what transpired over those 13 games. I remember there was games where they were ahead and they blew leads. They gave up goals late. All of those things are various reasons. I think the on ice blowing of leads and giving up goals late, that can go on the players. And obviously, if you're not playing well enough, you're not going to win those games. And that is the player's responsibility, and they carry that, to not have the mental fortitude or the mental stability to work yourself out of that and just win a game. Win a game out of 13. It's crazy that went on as long as it did. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's easy to put on the players. I think going through the next factors, we'll go to the coaching staff next. I think that really there is a big responsibility. And as I'm talking this out, I'm thinking about this. Maybe the coaching staff does carry a lot of this next to the general manager. But ultimately, the job of the coaching staff is to get your team ready to play, to get your team up to play. And it's ultimately a failure that they couldn't get that team out of their own mental, whatever entanglement they were in at the time, to get themselves to a spot where they could put together stretches of hockey to win a game. Win multiple games within that even. And I get it, without your best player, like we said, but it falls on them. It falls on them from the standpoint of getting your players ready to play. It falls on them from having your special teams going. So maybe you can sneak out a win or two when you're not playing that great, but your special teams is good, particularly the power play, and that guides you and that drives you to a win. And there are a couple of wins. But as you've seen throughout the entire season, that's just not consistent. It has its peaks and valleys for 5 games, and then it goes away again. And I think that's big in the coaching staff. Now there was no roster changes there. There wasn't really any players that were set. There wasn't any significant moves from the goaltending to sending a message to a player. There really was none of that. And everyone kind of just shell shocked, just let it continue to go on and go on and go on for as long as it did before it was too late. And once it was finally over, well, it doesn't matter. There was no recovery. Then we get to the general manager, who I think carries maybe right up there with the head coach the responsibility for what that 13-game losing streak. I understand that you don't want to just do something to do something. That's never a good place to be in. In most instances, that type of move doesn't work out for you and ultimately doesn't make your team a better team. Having said that, and understanding that, when you're at 8, 9, 10 games, you got to do something. I would do something at 5 or 6 games that early in the season. Call somebody up, demote somebody, claim somebody off of waivers. Do something to shake your team. I mean, I'm not saying just make another Eric Robinson trade or something but still, you can't just allow it to occur. Not to mention your best player is out of the lineup during that time. But there was nothing done from a roster standpoint. Not a single thing. No changes, no call-ups, no demotions. Just let it go. Just sit on your hands. And for Kevin Adams, this isn't just this time. There is multiple times that this has occurred while he's been the general manager of this team. 7-game losing streak, 6 games, 8 games, 9 games. I feel like there was a post somewhere that Adams is responsible for the top 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 longest losing streaks in Sabre history. It's unacceptable, and in most instances, that general manager doesn't keep his job, but this one is. We're going to get into that right now. I've done that plenty of times. We'll get into that plenty over the next few months. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard for me to pinpoint one particular thing more than the other. I think that, like I said, the coaching staff and probably the general managers maybe carry a little bit more weight than I would say the players or even the ownership. What can the owner do besides fire a coach, general manager? And I don't know. Does he want to do that early in the season? I guess maybe it wasn't that early in the year, but still, clearly not. He didn't want to do that. He flew to Montreal to tell him everything was. I don't want to say everything was great. He flew to Montreal to speak with the hockey operations staff and then ultimately the team, and decided to leave things as they are, and decided that it's likely that the coach and the general manager are going to return next season. I don't know what else to tell you on that. There's no clean, good argument to make to letting this continue, to letting this. I mean, Lindy, you could say it's 1 year, but the general manager, there's really not a good argument to let him get another off season, but that's where it's going to be. So 13-game losing streak. I think a way you lose 13 games is you have a wide range of factors. Your best player being out, your players not being able to rebound mentally, make mistakes in the games. Nobody can step up and get you through. Your coaching staff can't get you out of the rut. Your coaching staff can't put together a good power play. And your general manager just willingly doesn't want to do a single thing and just lets it go for how long that it did. That's how you lose 13 games in this league. That streak. All right, let's move to the free agency question, because this is a good one and about a particular player that I am going to have my eyes on here. The question comes from Daniel If Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett both make it to free agency, which one would you prefer the Sabres to sign, or neither player? This is easy for me. Aaron Ekblad is the one that I'm going after. Bright shot defenseman, can play with Owen Power, and veteran Stanley Cup champion, leader on a team that went to the final, and could go to 3 finals here. They've been to one, they lost one, they won one. It seems like an extremely logical and I don't want to say easy. That's not the word I'm looking for. Just as a perfect fit for what this team is looking for and what this team needs. Is he the guy that he was, when he was 24, 25, 23, at his peak? No. But I think if you're going to put him with a player of Power's caliber, that you're going to be happy with the results that you get out of him. And, I think one of the things that maybe is overestimated or over-exaggerated, I don't say over-exaggerated, but I think he gets more credit for than he deserves in Ekblad's game, is the defensive side. It's not to the level that I think we believe that it is. He's fine. He's much better than what they currently have here. And that's why I think if you get him, that he's going to help you playing with Power on the right side. It's your veteran leader. Then you have Darlene and whoever, be it Byram or somebody else. And then you have Power and Ekblad, and you fill in your third pair, and you're well on your way. But I think there's more where he succeeds is maybe more on the offensive side of things. And that can be a good thing too, especially if he's going to play with Power and the way this team works. Their offensive upside, that's good and great. But I don't think you're going to get some sort of Chris Tanev defensive stalwart here. I think you're going to get a guy that's probably average defensively, but on this roster is going to be better than the below average defensive players that you have. And it's going to seem like it's a significant upgrade. It's going to seem like it's going to make your team a lot better. But all you're really doing is getting to a baseline to maybe slightly above average, and you're letting then the talent of the player that he plays with come through more and play more comfortable in his game. But I think that's why it's a fit. Would he ever come here? I don't know. It would be tough. They'd probably have to significantly overpay, and we don't even know if they're willing to do that. But yeah, I think he's one of the ideas that make a lot of sense from a free agency perspective and even a trade perspective. He's the guy that you can go out and get for free without giving up assets. But if he's coveted on the market, it's going to be a tough game to get involved in. But if they can make it happen, he's for sure one of the guys that it's top of my list in free agency this year. Okay, to the goaltending for our last question of the day. This one comes in from Ben. Does Reimer's late season hot streak earn him an extension / re-signing? Interesting conversation here. I'm not looking forward to spending parts of the summer talking about goaltending for one reason in particular. I think what is very likely going to happen is that Luukkonen and Levi are going to be your 2 goaltenders next season in the NHL. I think that is the most likely outcome. And I think spending time on anything else or any other ideas is most likely a waste of time, because that's what's it's probably going to happen. Levi has played well in the AHL. If he has a good run in the Calder Cup playoffs, they're going to feel comfortable throwing him in there, and we're going to do year 3 of this, and maybe the third time's a charm. I don't know. But, of course, we have to do our job here with what we do and discuss it. So to go back to the question itself, does Reimer's late season hot streak earn him an extension? I would say no. I would be open to it depending on the cost of it. Because look, any veteran goaltender you bring in is going to be at the similar level that Reimer sits at right now. Freddie Anderson is out there, Jake Allen, Ilya Samsonov, there's not a lot of great options. Vitek, Vanacek, um, Vladar is another one, but like what are they really? They're all going to be similar, right? They're all going to be similar, um, and that's why really I don't want to spend the assets or spend significant money on, let's say, overpaying Freddie Anderson to come be your 1B. One, because he can't stay healthy, but two, overall, you're not getting anything that's significantly better or a sure thing than what you're getting out of Lukin. I think if you improve your team defense, not just your blue line, but your overall team defense, and you have a calmer situation around your goaltender, that's going to help, and that we can just as easily see a Lukin bounce back season next year. Now, getting to what the plan should be is, again, we have to discuss, is this going to be a 1A, 1B? Is it going to be Lukin's net? And then Levi is the backup, because we saw that didn't really work out how it started. Because look, you have two goaltenders here, for the most part, are the most successful when they're in a rhythm and playing consistently. So, I mean, especially Levi, really hasn't played as a backup in years, doesn't really know how to, or even, and I understand it's difficult to transition to that, to going from playing every single night, every single game, to playing 25 games out of 82 or 30 games out of 82. It's difficult to do that. So what do they do? You turn it into a Swayman Olmark type thing where you just alternate games back and forth, and they, in out kind of thing. Or you do that until one of them gets a hot hand, but that sets it up for some risk. I mean, we've seen this plan fail 2 years in a row. Or do we want to do it a third time? Now Levi is older. He has a couple more years under his belt, a little bit more AHL experience, a little bit more pro hockey experience. Maybe he's learned some things and, can clean his game up when he gets back to the NHL. But what if he doesn't? Then what do you do? So that's why for me, it gets to reasonably the smart, or the, I don't know if safe's the right word, but it couldn't be used. The safe thing to do is to get a reliable goaltender in here that can be, your break glass in case of emergency, or it can be a guy that, if Lukin falters early, you can throw him in, and you can just be on your way. But as we just talked about it, like, then who is that guy? Freddie Anderson? Like, can he play enough to and stay healthy long enough to be that? Jake Allen, like Ilya Samsonov, like, it's tough. And then it gets to, well, do you want to trade for a guy? I don't know. Do I want to give up those assets? Do I want to give up that cap space in a world that I potentially am playing with a shorter deck in terms of cap space compared to the rest of the league? It's tough, man. It's a tough decision that they're going to have to make, and what Lukin has put them in. But I think what they're going to land on, and what is going to happen, is that they'll just stick with their two. They'll just stick with their two, and that is hope and pray that it will be successful once again. Or not even once again, but this time, for the first time. And those two can coincide. They can figure out a system that works. And it's good enough to get them where they need to be, and the rest of the roster is improved, and it pushes them into being a playoff team. That's probably the easiest answer. I don't love it, but it's the one that probably makes the most sense logically. That to roll your dice there, see what happens, and try to adjust off of that the best that you can. Tough situation. But again, goaltenders up, down, up, down, up, down. There's no reason for me to sit here and tell you that I don't think that's possible for Lukin to bounce back and, to be, I don't know about the level that he was last season, but close to that or good enough for you. So, running it back has been the theme. I've seen people put on social media. I think that whole thing's a little bit much. I don't think we're going to see a run back here by any means. But at least the goaltending, I think you might see the same tandem that started this season be the one that starts next season. All right, 20 minutes is a little longer than I thought we would go there, touching on 3 topics. So thank you very much, everybody who sent in the questions. And again, if you want to send questions in the future, xbpodmailbag@gmail.com is the place to send those. Every Thursday, Mailbag Thursday. That is what we'll do. And I'm sure we'll get more into free agency and trade stuff as we get into the final stretches of the games here. And before I do go, I do want to mention once again our friend at Big Bear Barbecue Supplies, 425 French Road, Depew, New York. As I said on Monday, if anyone goes to visit him and purchases something from there, reach out to me, email expectedbuff@gmail.com, or you can DM me on any social media platform you were able to do so. Let me know that you went there, purchased something, and 6 months to the site on me. Trying to help out a fellow friend, Joe Green, great guy. Big Bear Barbecue Supplies, again, 425 French Road in Depew. Open 10 a.m. Monday through Saturday. Supporting a local business. I'm in the barbecue game. I got my meat graffiti hat on today. I posted, that reminds me, SCA event coming to Buffalo, New York. I talked about it on Monday, but we got the official details July 18th and 19th. So you can go check out. I posted that on social media. I'll probably do it again tomorrow. If you're interested in doing that, sign up. Lots of fun. Learn a lot. Test out your skills. It's not just a steak cooking competition. There's ribs. There's tailgate. Wings. There's a Cheerios one. There's definitely a lot of different options you can choose from. You don't have to do the steak one. You can do any other the ones that are up there available to you. It'll be a good time right near the new Bill Stadium. So check that out. Anyways, thanks everybody for listening. Really appreciate it. And we will talk again next week after a weekend slate of games here again. And we will be into the final 2 weeks of the season. Crazy to say, but yes, the final 2 weeks of the Sabres season next week. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good weekend. See ya.